part of the balcony above it collapsing and crumbling on top of her. Hey internet, it's Jessica and welcome back to Seduce Me to the Demon War, Damien's route. So I think we're pretty much at the end now because we're at the castle and Damien is now human, but Diana gave him a crystal in order to have himself transform or use his demon powers. So he's gonna be Sailor Moon. He's just gonna transform and have his demon powers to fight the demon lord so that he doesn't die. The castle halls were grim and dark, sending shivers through me as Damien and I ran through towards sounds of battle. All across the ground were bodies of slaughtered imps and soldiers, most likely dead by Diana's hand. And as we finally arrived to the throne room, Damien held out his arm to stop me and protect me from the battle waging within. Oh god. Diana and the Demon Lord were in some sort of energy deadlock, with a bolt of red energy streaming out of the Demon Lord's hand and colliding with a purple flame that came from Diana's. The two energies pressed against each other, unrelenting in their violence, crashed as each stream of energy tried to obtain dominance over the other. The Demon Lord and Diana were equally matched.
Give up, succubus! This world will bow to me!
Over my dead body!
Oh, please don't say that. Please don't say that, because I'm probably gonna kill her by accident again, like I have, like, every single time.
That can be arranged!
A burst of red energy pulsed around the Demon Lord's body, intensifying his bolt of lightning in a deadlock and forcing Diana to step back from the sheer force of it. Despite this, Diana pressed back, regaining her momentum and her ground. Damien and I remained still and quiet, watching the bout. Damien was meant to be back up in case something happened to Diana, and thankfully she didn't necessarily need to stop them now, or at least it didn't look like it. Maybe Damien wouldn't have to step in after all. Diana shut her eyes and seemed to focus her energy, large black and purple flames slowly crawling around her body in a threatening aura as the power behind her energy streamed increased and began to push hard back against the Demon Lord. As Diana opened her eyes, I gasped as they revealed themselves and completely covered in gold. For a moment, the Demon Lord seemed to be struggling to maintain his place, stepping back and trying to remain upright at the hard push Diana was throwing his way. However, as he turned his body, the Demon Lord spotted at me and Damien at the entrance hall, and a smirk grew on his face.
Ah, uninvited guests!
Oh god. Diana suddenly turned her head our way, surprised at our acknowledgement, which caused her momentum to falter a bit. Taking the chance, the Demon Lord released another pulse energy at Diana, forcing her to bend back and bite a stumble on her feet. Diana's eyes returned to normal as she raised the other hand to assist the stream of energy from her end of the deadlock, attempting to push forward again and regain her place. The Demon Lord, however, laughed.
It's useless!
Yo, I'm already annoyed at this guy. With the final push, the Demon Lord let out an angry snarl and forced his energy forward, causing Diana to slam back against the far pillar and lose concentration in her attack. Smirking evilly, the Demon Lord took the chance to shot a bolt of red lightning at Diana, electrocuting her.
Ah!
Great! Diana! Damien growled and stepped forward, but through her torture, Diana turned her head and glared hard at Damien, making him freeze in place.
Not your turn!
Is she waiting until she has to die or something? Despite being covered in the red-tinted bolt of lightning, Diana began to focus her energy again and forced a deep purple aura around herself, letting the Demon Lord's attack bounce around her new barrier. With a breath, Diana let out her energy pulse out, dissolving the Demon Lord's attack, and a shot of bursts of purple flames in retaliation. Her flames slammed themselves into the Demon Lord's chest, putting him backwards into the pillar opposite of hers. I could see the light in Diana's eyes flicker from blood red to gold as she locked eyes with the Demon Lord. Something began to burn beneath her murderous gaze, as if a simple stare was powerful enough to burn through the most courageous of hearts. However, the smirk plastered on the Demon Lord's face made my body shiver at the sight. He was nowhere near fazed from Diana's glare. In fact, he seemed to find it amusing from the look in his eyes.
So, the rebel queen is protecting the mistake. How pathetic.
Yo, you can go fuck off. Do not call Damien a mistake.
The only mistake that lives in this world is you.
Exactly! Fucking drag his ass! The echo of the Demon Lord's laughter bounced through the hall with an unforgiving reverb, invading my ears and pounding against my mind. I could feel the dark energy pass through his voice and shake my soul. This wasn't a nightmare or a vision. The Demon Lord was right in front of me, and his presence was terrifying. Diana and the Demon Lord began to circle one another, with Diana moving to stand in front of us, while the Demon Lord positioned himself in front of his throne at the foot of the dais. However, I could feel the anxiousness in Damien's arms as I held it to me, keeping him in place. He wanted to fight the Demon Lord, but Diana was lending him, and it bothered him to no end.
Let me help.
No!
I don't need help.
Not yet. How about not yet? How about that? With the answer, Diana sprinted forward, summoning her wings and shooting herself like a bullet towards the Demon Lord. As she passed the midpoint of the room, Diana formed a saber in her hand and swung at the Demon Lord. To her disgust, the Demon Lord parried with ease with his own sword, knocking her saber back and swinging to get a slice of her. The battle became a quick slam of dodges and parries from the Demon Lord and Diana, the sound of steel clanging violently in the air. It became a challenge to keep Damien near me, and I could feel anger and need for battle in his tense muscles, ushering me to squeeze it and pull him towards me cautiously, but who knew how long he would. What caused me to look away from Damien was the sound of Diana crying out in pain. Oh my god, what now? I watched as Diana's body flew across the room and slammed itself into the nearby wall, a part of the balcony above it collapsing and crumbling on top of her. So, this girl just gets stabbed, she gets hanged, she gets thrown out a window into the decaying sea, and now she's gonna be crushed to death by a bunch of falling debris. Great. I could almost hear bones breaking from the rocks that had fallen on her. Diana, no! I could see Diana digging her way through the rubble, her hands clawing at the opening in desperation to pull herself out. However, Damien took the chance to march towards the Demon Lord, ready to keep a fight. Oh my god. Seeing his new opponent, the Demon Lord chuckled darkly and brandished his sword, pointing it at Damien in a taunt.
So, you've come to try and stop me? You're as foolish as I remember!
You know nothing about me.
Jon Snow!
I may not, but I remember all about your mother.
Oh my god. That sparked a flare in Damien's rage. Damien swiped his hand into his pocket and pulled out the gem Diana had given him. From the grip he had on it, I was surprised it didn't smash between his fingers. God, he's gonna transform! Sailor Moon! However, before Damien could step forward, a flash of purple zipped across the room, slamming into the Demon Lord's body, shoving him into the pillar and successfully destroying it with his body.
I'm not done with you yet!
Oh, okay. The room began to slowly shape into a reflection of my nightmare, with rubble and stone littering the ground. Diana floated in the air with her wings, but I could tell that her legs and at least a rib was broken, making her curl over herself in pain. Diana kept the glare on Demon Lord, however, gritting her teeth through the pain and forming her saber once again in her hand, as only a couple of fingers and her thumb managed to wrap around the handle. I could tell that her hand was also injured.
You'll have to kill me first before I let you get away.
Diana's a badass. She has like multiple broken bones and she's still fighting this idiot. To see Diana continue to fight was remarkable, but I knew very well that she wasn't going to last long. One more avalanche of rubble on her and would end her. The Demon Lord rose from the pile of stones that had fallen on him, grinning despite the blood rushing down his forehead.
Then let me finish the job!
With a cackle, the Demon Lord let out his red energy pulse around him, making the rubble around him practically disintegrate before he lunged forward and slammed his sword into hers, shooting them towards the opposite end of the throne room. Diana and the Demon Lord returned to their clashes of steel, and Damien only fumeled at the about. My instinct screamed at me to pull him back and calm him down, but was I in place to stop him? Oh god! Oh no. I need a save. Is this the part where it's gonna be like, hey, let him attack so we can help Diana, or just stay back and let Diana die? Is that what's gonna happen here? Okay, let me see if I can let him attack. I swear to god, if Diana dies... Damien had every right to be angry. He had every right to join the fight. Who was I to stop him? The faster we ended the Demon Lord, the better. Oh my god, I probably made a mistake. I stepped back, letting Damien gasp onto the gem for a moment before quickly rushing forward, crushing it in his hand as he brought it up into the fist to swing a punch at the Demon Lord.
Out of my way!
As Damien got close, however, the Demon Lord jutted a foot forward, slamming it into Damien's chest and sending him flying towards the room entrance. He landed hard against the wall and fell into the ground, stunned momentarily from the impact. Damien! I rushed over to Damien, panicked at the event and sliding to kneel at Damien's side. He gritted his teeth and coughed, trying to catch himself, and slowly began to stand. The Demon Lord, however, was not so patient. The Demon Lord let a red energy slam into Diana's body, forcing her back before charging head-on towards me and Damien, sword positioned at his side to impale his son into the wall. Damien managed to stand, still curled over in the lack of air in his lungs, but glared hard at the Demon Lord, quickly diminished the distance between himself and us. I had no energy to defend him. I felt myself naturally step in front of Damien, wanting so much to protect him. However, I couldn't help but see my life flash before a moment before my eyes. Was this the end?
No!
Am I dead? With her final shot, Diana rushed between us, Oh, what? So I killed her anyway! What, are you fucking serious? I'm gonna fucking load again, hang on. Jesus Christ, calm Damien down. I had to force Damien to accept that Diana was handling the fight. If he interfered, then Diana might attack him as well from the adrenaline rush. I grabbed Damien's hand and pulled him back to me, needing to set him straight. As he looked to me, I could see the need for revenge burning in his eyes. I instinctively felt bad, but I knew better than to let him rampage. Come on. I insisted and pulled Damien back towards the entrance hall, giving Diana and the Demon Lord space to fight. Damien reluctantly followed, not allowing the anger in his eyes to die as he stared and pinned his gaze on the fight. Battle intensified as we settled back into our place. Diana seemed to match equally to her opponent as the fight waged violently between them. Red lightning and purple flames sparked between the weapons, lightning in the room like fireworks. As Diana's saber flew out of her hands and clattered onto the floor, she brought her arms up and, to my surprise, began to use her forearms to defend herself from the Demon Lord's blade. Jesus! How is it possible? I would never know, but his blade would merely clang against the purple taint on Diana's skin, like she was wearing some sort of armor, or perhaps her demon markings protected her? Regardless, Diana defended herself as much as she could until she was met with a kick in the chest, sending her flying back into another pillar and breaking it apart with her body. Her body was completely covered by the rubble, unmoving and unwavering from the hit. Diana! Is she dead? Come on, why does she have to, like, oh my god. The Demon Lord finally looked to Damien, tongue darting out to lick the blade as his smirk grew.
Your turn, mistake.
Oh my god, Damien, kick his ass already. Damien snarled as he finally settled himself, ready to take on his father, not only for the world but for his mother, but for Diana as well. Damien's body pulsed and caused me to kneel over slightly from the burst of power in his chest. With a hiss, Damien growled as his body began to shift. His clothes slowly vanished and a black marking began to crawl across Damien's skin. Oh, he's transforming! Sailor Moon! Alright! As Damien's horns reformed in his head, the air began to shift into one extreme cold. Something about Damien began to pulse with dark energy, one that I had not seen from him before he lost his powers. As Damien finally locked eyes with the Demon Lord, a flash of black washed over his gaze, sending a vibration of fear down my back.
Let's
Woo!
end this.
Yeah! Look at him! Oh my god! In a show of power, the Demon Lord let out a snarl and charged forward with his sword. Damien, however, summoned a large visible burst of energy, pushing the Demon Lord back. The Demon Lord fell back and tumbled onto his feet after skidding across the marble with a snarl. I had to cover my face with my hands to block the gust of wind that followed, almost feeling myself slide across the floor on my heels from the wave. Damien was billowing with energy, and it definitely showed. With the look of cold thirst for murder in his eyes, Damien lifted his head and raised his arm and to his sides, in a familiar fashion to the succubus before. The black marking on Damien's back began to twist and turn, slowly pulling themselves off his skin and forming a set of wings. Yeah! Dude, Damien's a badass. Staring at them, they were surprisingly much larger than Diana's. They shuddered and flapped themselves through the air, pushing gusts of wind forward and taunting a gesture at the Demon Lord. As the Demon Lord began to stand, Damien brought his hands in front of him and formed a large rod of black mist in his hands. It quickly solidified in the grip, and it began to gleam brightly as one end began to protrude into the curve of the end of a scythe. I knew that the gem would intensify Damien's power, but just how much did it strengthen? The Demon Lord measured Damien with his eyes and glaring hard and gripping his sword tighter in both anger and a dash of surprise.
How did you get this much power?
Well, you're about to find out, bitch!
I don't answer to scum like you.
Yes! With that reply, Damien swooped forward and swung his scythe back to reap through the Demon Lord like a grim reaper. Despite the Demon Lord being able to parry and attack with his blade, the Demon Lord found himself skidding across the floor from the force of Damien's attack. Damien became relentless and continued to swing and slam his scythe blade into the Demon Lord's sword. The heavy slamming of steel beating on steel boomed through the room as Damien began to push the Demon Lord back towards the throne. Finally, the Demon Lord was knocked onto the back of his throne, stunned momentarily as Damien pulled the scythe back, ready to decapitate his enemy once and for all. Unfortunately, the blade was met with the Demon Lord's sword at the last minute, making me grimace at the aggravation. I wanted this to end. I wanted the Demon Lord to fall already. This dance of death had gone long enough, and there was no reason for this battle to prolong itself any further. The Demon Lord was clinging to his last moment, and every part of me wished that he would give up. Damien was more powerful than him. This fight would eventually be over. Damien pressed his body against the scythe, pushing against the Demon Lord.
Give up.
Trying to scare me, boy? Let me show you how it's done!
Distracted by the deadlock, Damien was suddenly kicked back through the air, sent tumbling in a surprise as the Demon Lord rose back up on his feet and locked eyes with me. A wave of fear shot through me, and I was locked frozen in place. I attempted to break free, mentally commanding every part of my body to move or do something to stop him, but no muscle in my body would obey. Damien quickly tumbled on his feet and burning a gaze into the Demon Lord before looking back at me and seeing what he was doing to me.
Be glad, boy! I'm setting her free from the demon world!
What does that mean? With a sadistic howl, a red bolt of lightning rammed itself into the ceiling, causing a large rock above me to shatter off and the structure and plummet towards me.
Look out!
The boulder quickly impacted my back. Oh, great! Oh, this is part of the nightmare, that's right! It wasn't heavy enough to completely crush me against the marble, but I could tell that I had broken a rib or two. Ow! Yo, I think this is the worst that we got injured in a fight, right? Out of all the roots? However, I felt a body pressed against me, burying the boulder from completely smashing it beneath it. I looked up to see a familiar face, wincing at the pain now embedded in her shoulder and in her arms. Diana! Despite being battered and bloody, Diana gripped the boulder, pressing most of its weight off of me and taking it on herself, making sure my injuries weren't limited to just broken bones. Yo, I fucking love Diana so much! Oh my god. Diana growled and pushed the boulder off of us at last, releasing a pair of huff air as she looked to me in concern.
Are you alright?
I could only nod, astonished at the turn of the events. Diana was alive. How is that possible? Staring at her, I could tell that she's near death's door, but she wasn't going down without the Demon Lord going down first. Her wings were pressed hard against her back, seemingly broken, but as she lifted me back up, a hum of purple energy rushed through Diana's body and forced her wings to flex out, snapping them into place once more.
This battle isn't over.
Woo!
Not by a much.
Ah, Diana! The pair of us looked over to the Demon Lord, seeing him emotionally seethe at the sight of us.
You just don't know when to die, do you?
Same to you, dude! Diana smirked and stepped forward, holding her hand back towards me and forming a large purple barrier around me.
We've got unfinished business to take care of first. Right, Damien?
With angered nod, Damien stood, gripping his scythe while Diana formed the saber in her hand, materializing a wrap around her hand and handle to keep it in her grip.
It's over, you bastard.
Woo! Baring his teeth, the Demon Lord gripped his sword and stepped down from the dais to meet Damien and Diana halfway.
I will slaughter you both!
A violent shudder ran up my spine at his words before Damien and Diana vaulted forward, slamming their weapons into the Demon Lord's parrying sword. At the collision, a bright flash of red, purple, and black energy sparked and lit the room like a large firework. I moved to the edge of the barrier, trying to watch from the safety of the spell around me, as Damien and Diana slowly began to beat down the Demon Lord's defenses, the spark between the clashes blinding the Demon Lord. No amount of bravado could save the Demon Lord now. The room was slowly began to crumble just from the heavy sound waves of their fighting, causing rocks upon rumble to fall onto the marble almost like hail. This time Damien was nowhere near defenseless. Damien would escape with me and the Demon Lord would die here alone. I felt confidence run through the idea Damien could do this. Tired of the steel battle, Diana swooped around the Demon Lord and slashed at his back of his knees, forcing him to fall forward and drop the sword from the impact.
Enough! End this!
Kill him! With a breath of mercy, Damien raised his scythe back, taking the aim at his target.
Goodbye, Father.
Oh, interesting that he's the one who calls him father. Out of all the boys, everyone just calls him the Demon Lord, bastard, asshole like Sam, but Damien calls him father. I find that really interesting. A flash of black energy swept through the room as Damien swung his scythe down through the neck of the Demon Lord. For a moment, nothing seemed to have occurred. It was until a large open line appeared on the Demon Lord's neck and his eyes began to glaze over that I realized of what had happened. In an angled cut, not perfect by any means, the Demon Lord's head slid off the shoulders and tumbled onto the marble floor, rolling until it stopped at the edge of one of his horns. From the newly opened neck, the black and red blood began to gush out and drain his body as the body fell forward. The sound of his body hitting the ground echoed through the chamber, solidifying the death of his father. The battle had been won at last. I could finally breathe. The realization of the entire event coursed through me like a wave of weight lifted off of my heart. The curse, I knew it then, that had been lifted at last. I was free to go home. I began drowning in my feelings of joy and relief, happy that it was all over and overwhelmed by everything that had happened. As the scythe beside me fell alongside the barrier around me, Damien slowly turned to face me, hearing my slowly growing cries of joy. It was overwhelming. We won. We really won. Oh, he's back to normal. Damien slowly started to walk towards me, his form fading from the demon he got a chance to be to the human he actually was. His clothes slowly materialized around his body, but the bruises and suit of battle remained and reminded me of what had happened. Just looking him in the eyes, I could tell the satisfaction in his deeds blossom from his gaze. He stared at me, happy to see me, and I felt myself grin ear to ear at him. I wasn't being pulled away from him, nor was he dead. Damien and I were together and we were okay. Damien finally stopped in front of me and wrapped his arms around me, letting everything sink in with my embrace as I buried my face in his shoulders. I was tired of seeing death around me now. All I wanted was to go home. You did it, Damien.
Yeah. We can go home now.
I looked up at him, feeling an ache of loss of adrenaline in my system course through me as I clung to him. The war was over for us. At last. Diana, however, collapsed onto the ground with the dais of the throne, panting for air as she stared at the pair of us in exhaustion. Cero, get your woman, goddammit! Before she could finish the sentence, Diana's eyes rolled over into the back of her head as she completely passed onto the ground. Oh shit! In a panic rush, I thrust my hand out towards her. Cero! In a flash of light, Cero's form materialized and looked around, surprised at the summoning. As his eyes landed to the passed-out Diana, he slammed down onto his knees and cradled her in his arms. Relieved to see her breathing, he hugged her to his chest, giving her his energy. I clung to Damien, now mentally wiped out, for who knew that the end of battle was so exhausting? I had fought with Lysette once before, but it was nowhere as near as intense as this was, not by a long shot. Damien and I looked to each other, both of us feeling the lack of energy from the battle, attempted to consume our bodies, before leaning onto one another for a well-deserved rest. One thing was for certain, this chapter in my story had come to an end. It was over. The war was finally over. Woo! I survived! Thank God!
Well, you did it! Congratulations! Damien and you, both completely human now, return home and set up once more for your wedding. Take 2.
Finally! It took a while to get everything back in order, but with the help of Damien's brothers and their wives, we were able to finally have the wedding Damien and I dreamed of. Everything was organized to the T, and it was indeed perfect. The reveals of the ceremony and reception still shook through me, even through the honeymoon. It was so unreal. I was married to the love of my life, and we were about to live our lives together forever. I sat in bed, waiting for Damien to return from his visit from the Anderson Toy Company. He wanted to pitch his next book idea to his brothers and hopefully get some funding for the art and publishing. Oh, he's writing a book, sweetheart! But I had high hopes for it regardless. It was boring, however, just waiting. I let out a sigh and slid off the bed, standing and stretching. What to do? I began to let my feet guide me through the house, wanting something to take my attention. As I let my mind wander, I couldn't help but remembering the secret alcove of the house that the house had, where Damien confessed his love to me, and where they just had sex, right in that hot tub spring, right? I wonder, was it still there? You don't know? You freaking live in this house! I walked through the memories, trying to figure out the secret passageway once again. With my luck, I managed to find it and walk through it, leaving the passageway open for Damien to find me later, in case I stuck around in the spring for long. I walked through the dark passageway and eventually entered the magical space my grandfather had created for the mansion, hiding a beautiful hot spring. The steam was just as heavy as it was when I was last in the space, making me smile and let out a relaxing sigh. A moment the spring was well worth everything I had gone through. I stripped down and slowly eased myself into the spring, feeling the water slowly drain my aches and stresses away the lower I slid myself. As I finally sat down, another sigh couldn't stop itself from escaping me, taking the fresh air and the sight of hint of flowers animating in the air. My thoughts simply melted away, letting me simply sit back down on the edge of the spring and indulge in the warmth around my body. The only thing that would have made this experience perfect was Damien beside me cuddling against. As if fate answered my selfish prayer, my thoughts were broken by the sound of slowly approaching footsteps, making me look over with a smile as I spotted familiar purple and blue eyes.
Hey! Enjoying the spring?
Damien slowly began to walk towards me, stripping off his clothes to join me as I smiled and nodded, lying back against the edge of the spring lazily. The water's so good, you're missing out. It's so sweet! Look at it! It's so cute! Damien chuckled before finally joining me, sitting beside me and wrapping his arms around me. I giggled in return, nuzzling into his shoulder and chest. The water may have been warm. The feeling Damien against me made me feel just right. Damien nuzzled my head with his and kissed over my shoulder gently. How was the meeting with James?
It went good. I got the funding.
Yes, baby, got a book! I'm so happy! I pulled away, suddenly excited for Damien. He grinned at me, nodding and affirming my words with his happy expression. That's awesome! Congratulations! Damien laughed and gently kissed me before pulling me into a hug, wrapping his arms fully around me and holding me close. I cuddled into his embrace, waves of joy practically animating from us. The wave start of Damien's future, and I would... This was the start of Damien's future, and I would be standing beside him, eager to see him grow and become a successful person he wanted to be. Damien softly kissed my cheeks and let it aside, relaxing his brace but not letting me go.
You are such an inspiration to me.
Aww, Damien.
It's true. You've supported me and been with me ever since we met. You did everything to protect me and give me everything I could have ever wanted.
Of course, because you need to be happy, damn it! Damien suddenly pulled away and stared into my eyes, his own full of love and passion that glimmered in the light of the magical made moon above us.
How did I ever come to deserve you?
I smiled sweetly and cupped Damien's cheek, feeling him nestle into my palm as I kissed his cheek softly. I knew very well that our relationship came from us deserving each other. I loved him and he loved me. It was all that mattered in the end. I should be asking the same thing, but I know we perfectly deserve each other. I feel like I was in some sort of blissful dream, staring into Damien's eyes as he became lost in mine. I love you, Damien.
I love you too.
I couldn't stop my smile from growing before leaning in and kissing Damien lovingly, feeling him kiss me back in the same amount of love and passion I had. Our lives would lead us to a blissful future, one filled with adventure, joy, and endless waves of affection for one another. He obtained his dream, and I have attained mine. And that was my perfect happily ever after. Yay! I got the good ending! I'm so happy because that's what I wanted for Damien, because he deserves to be happy, and I was gonna be so upset if I got the bad one. But unfortunately, I need to get the bad one on purpose now, so we're gonna go see that, and end this route with a heartbreak moment. That's what I always do. Alright, so I think this is the bad ending because we're not supposed to make Damien human since that's what he truly wants.
The only ones who gave a damn about you were your idiot brothers. If it were up to me, you'd be a rotting corpse.
What a dick. Damien refused to give in. With his energy, Damien found multiple copies of himself around the room, all alarmed and dangerous. As a copy ran up to the Demon Lord to strike him from behind, the Demon Lord only smirked to let loose a red bolt of red energy around his body. The energy forced me back to slide across the tumble onto the floor. As I looked up to see what else had happened, I'd stayed in shock as Damien's doppelgangers no longer graced the room in their presence. What? Even worse so, Damien became locked in a tight grip around his neck, lifted high in the air as he struggled to get his legs onto the Demon Lord's body somehow.
Your existence took my succubus away from me. Well, I'm gonna take something from you in return.
Is he gonna kill us? Like a ragdoll, Damien arced through the air and was tossed on the opposite side of the room with ease. I watched in horror as Damien's body crashed into a pillar near the dais and broken through it and slammed into the far wall. Damien! I scrambled up to get her off to rush to him, but as I finally got back on my feet, the Demon Lord stepped in my path, smirking down at me and causing me to freeze in my spot. Something took hold of me, forcing me to remain still as I stared up at the Demon Lord in a complete fear. I was frozen as a statue and he slowly approached me and dug his fingers into my hair. With a hard tug, he lifted my body in the air. In excruciating pain, my body broke free and that hold on to me as I began to fail and struggle to get out of his grip. Let me go! I tried to use my energy to fight, but found none to use. I tried to kick him and force him to release me, but my attempts were fruitless. I was stuck in the Demon Lord's grip as he turned and held me out towards where Damien had fallen. I stared wide-eyed as Damien slowly stood from his place and rushed to try and re-engage battle with the Demon Lord, only to take in the sight of me.
No!
Oh no, I don't like this because Damien doesn't deserve any of it. Ugh. I reached out to Damien, hoping that he would come and save me with his abilities. As Damien's energy flared, he began to rush at me. I let out a painful gasp as searing pain ripped through my stomach. Damien stopped and I looked down, both of us stricken with horror as the Demon Lord's blade protruded out from my stomach, painted with flesh and dripping blood. Great, I died! My blood.
Watch as she dies, because you exist.
Without mercy, the Demon Lord ripped the sword from my body and slammed it back through another section of my stomach, white flailing pain shooting through me.
No!
Damien took a step to rush forward, but found himself frozen in place from the sheer shock at what the Demon Lord had done, and from the Demon Lord's fear and enthrallment that he had used on me. The world began to grow fuzzy as I felt myself slowly bleed out. As if the 2 death blows weren't enough, the Demon Lord quickly slid the sword from my body and rammed it through my back and my diaphragm, twisting it to ensure that I would scream regardless. I couldn't hear myself let out a scream as my entire body slowly became numb and the world around me darkened. I couldn't even say goodbye. Ugh. No! So he keeps the Damien?! That's really fucked up. I don't like this ending. I don't like that. Oh, still, out of all the bad endings, Matthew, in my opinion, is the worst one. But, god damn it. So they just make Damien suffer even longer. Because they don't even kill him. Because if you think about the other bad endings, too, like, they either all die, or in James's case, we get sent back to the human world. The Demon Lord kills us, but they make sure to kill the son as well. But Damien, he doesn't. He keeps him. That's really fucked up. I don't like that. Let's just pretend I didn't witness that at all. We didn't see the bad ending, right? Yep, okay. Yeah, that was new. I also liked Damien's route because it's really different from the other boys, since their main motivation was to get the father, right? But with Damien, it's not really. It's his struggle to become human, which I really liked. I liked his story. It was really good. And of course, Jonah Scott did an amazing job with the voicing. With that being said, if you guys would like to get the game yourself, there's a link in the description. I believe all Michaela's games are 50% off right now, so if you want to grab it, I think it's only $5, so yeah, go ahead and grab it. I have a link in the description to her store. And if you want to follow Michaela on any of social media or support her on Patreon so she can make more games, I'll have links to her stuff, and same with Jonah Scott, so you can go follow him as well. I'm finally going to start Diana's route, and this will be the last route for the series until the episodes come out, whenever those come out. But in the meantime, I'm going to be taking a break from Seduce Me for a few weeks, and then I will continue on again. If you guys want to check out my other Let's Plays as well, I'll have links to those in the description or on the screen or somewhere. I just started a new Let's Play called Murdered Soul Suspect. It's not a horror game, it's more of a mystery game, where we figure out who our killer is while we're being a ghost. If that makes any sense. We're a detective, but we're a ghost, and we're trying to figure out who killed us. It's a really interesting concept. So yeah, if you guys want to check that out, I'll have links to that as well. And if you guys would like to support the channel on Patreon, I will leave a link to that as well. Early access to videos for Patreon only, the Discord server to come talk to me, and a bunch of other cool stuff. Or if you would like to check out my store, that's another way you can support the channel. And like always, remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to join the companions. I hope you all enjoyed Damien's route, especially for those who have not seen it. Please let me know in the comments what do you thought about both endings, the good and bad ones. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!
Sure.
I hope they knock on his ass. Yes!
Hey, Baxter, hey!
Yes!
Just get back.
That's what I was hoping for. I could tell. You smelled it so delicious, and... Oh god!